In Somalia, recurrent extreme droughts and floods have added to the devastation caused by locust invasion and the pandemic. The consequences of the crisis could be worse than the 2011 famine. Rain Paulson, UN Food and Agriculture Organization official, confirmed grim predictions.
Today we have a statement by a group of independent experts who have validated the analysis done, which points to a projection for a famine in two parts of south-central Somalia between the period October to December this year.
If according to UN agencies, 7.8 million Somalis, or half of the population, face crisis hunger levels, protecting animals is also a priority. Cattle is essential for trade and transportation in the largely pastoral nation.
FAO is scaling up its drought response famine prevention to meet immediate needs of 1.8 million Somalis. We're doing this through at-scale cash distributions, putting money into the hands of the most vulnerable so they can buy what they need. And importantly, we're doing it through support to animals. We have to keep livestock alive. Animal treatment, animal fodder, water for animals to be able to survive.
Humanitarian agencies have been ringing alarm bells for months and say the situation across the Horn of Africa is likely to deteriorate. We are in the last minute of the 11th hour to save lives, UN humanitarian chief Martin Griffiths said Monday.
This is now the fourth season. There is likely to be a fifth failed season. We have to work on resilience at the same time as we work on a scaled-up emergency response. Famine can be prevented, but only with urgent response at scale.
The UN said at the end of August it had received 67% of its $1.5 billion aid target for Somalia. Around 1 million people have fled their homes on a desperate quest for food and water. Burkina Faso's Prime Minister Albert Ouédraogo visited Tuesday survivors of the attack on a military-led supply convoy, including civilians, drivers and traders. 37 people were wounded in the Monday attack, among them a dozen children are hospitalized at the Charles de Gaulle Pediatric Hospital in Ouédraogo. I would like to salute the teams for their bravery, serenity and the responsiveness with which they took care of the wounded. I therefore encourage them to continue along this path. If the PM met with civilians still alive, at least 35 died after an improvised explosive device struck a convoy between Djibo and Burzanga in the country's jihadist-hit north. The emergency services quickly reacted to provide care to the wounded. We had to reorganize the teams, move some equipment to make space and put additional beds and mattresses. That's how we were able to take 13 children who came to the airbase. They were transported here by army ambulances. We had other patients we were getting ready to operate on, so we had to manage several situations at the same time. All these children were able to be taken care of. Unfortunately, we lost a child in intensive care. Another one is still in a critical state. However, his situation is stable. Paying tribute to the innocent victims, President Paul-Henri Sandaogo de Miba vowed to defeat the insurgents. Burkina's ruling junta, which seized power in January, declared the fight against the insurgency a top priority.
Scientists gathered in the Congo Basin in northern DRC to discuss ways to protect the rainforest, as well as prepare for the 27th Climate Conference taking place in November in Egypt. The head of the Center for International Forestry Research's operations in Congo reaffirmed the region's role in absorbing carbon. We are beginning to see evidence that the Amazon is becoming more of an emitter, and so a lot of the efforts of scientists and researchers are aimed at the Congo Basin, and in particular the DRC, which has 160 million hectares of forest that is still in a state that is capable of absorbing and contributing to this fight against climate change. The main threats facing the rainforest in Congo are deforestation, caused by slash and burn agriculture, as well as people foraging for charcoal for cooking. The exploitation of wood energy to make firewood and agriculture, because of demographic pressure, are major factors that cause deforestation. So the Center for International Forestry Research project is working in this direction to limit its two major causes.
The
local community needs to have alternative activities that reduce the pressure on the forest. But the international community's mechanisms are still very theoretical. There are very long procedures to access carbon finance. The director also mentioned empty promises such as the deal to protect the Congo Basin rainforest signed by President Felix Tshisekedi and that British Prime Minister Boris Johnson last year. Only the polluting countries are getting richer at the expense of the countries that are making efforts to stabilize the climate, to bring the climate back to 1.5 degrees. In 2016, researchers estimated in a study that around 30 billion tons of carbon are stored across the Congo Basin.
Just a stone throw from the congested Luanda street stands a dilapidated concrete building, a remnant of Angola's colonial past. The arena became a concert venue hosting some of the biggest names in Central African music. But as lengthy and brutal civil war consumed the country, it slowly fell into decay and started to draw refugees looking for shelter rather than entertainment. In order to make good use of the space, it was transformed into a cultural site. Here, after independence, took place some of the major music shows in the country. National and international artists came here like Pepe Kalle and Kassav. On a thrust of city life, the arena has become abandoned for decades, and repeated government promises to renovate the venue have yet to bear fruit. There's a cultural patronage organization that should be implemented. It's not reality yet, but the talks are on the right track. This is more or less the funding we get here. There are also companies that sometimes sponsor a cultural project through private funds. Francisco and other soldiers like him who sought refuge in the building after the Civil War would see their homes razed to make room for a huge parking lot if the current renovation plans were to get underway. We were refugees and didn't have all the solutions, so they said we can come and settle, but after 20 years we have to be moved. We don't have a problem with that. Up to the mid-2070s, Luanda residents crowded the stadium's 20,000 seats to watch bullfight or touradas, a violent pastime pitting man against an animal that was introduced to the southern African country by its Portuguese colonizers.
A video of a child refugee in Libya suffering abuse has highlighted the plight of refugees in the country. The boy, Mazen Adam, a refugee from Sudan's conflict-torn Darfur region, was kidnapped last week by unknown gunmen demanding ransom. The video clip that has spread and showed an incident of torture of a Sudanese child, an asylum seeker in Libya, I do not think it is anything new or shocking. It may be shocking, but only to those who are not following the situation. The video has underscored how abuses, torture, sexual violence and killings are rampant in Libya, where the European Union is paying authorities as well as militias to block migrants from reaching its shores, trapping them there. This family is registered with the UNHCR, and they were among the people who staged the sit-in in front of the UNHCR headquarters, and then they were arrested again, and after they were expelled from their homes in the string of arrests that occurred last year. It was the UNHCR that intervened and took them out of the detention center. Without a functioning government for most of the past decade, Libya has become a hub for migrants, with thousands coming in every year from Arab nations or sub-Saharan Africa, aiming to cross the Mediterranean to Europe.